Ankh and Ptahhotep, peace, what's happening, world? I'm Ahasa, this is Afrosynthesis, and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, as you can see by the title, is episode 20, Maatcracy, right? A spiritual framework for politics and self-governance. And so we're going to have an episode about spirituality and politics because we truly find ourselves at a crossroad, right? We are finding ourselves in a time where the forces of imbalance are in a lot of ways like colliding, and they're colliding while we're having this desire for harmony, right? A desire for peace. And so in this moment of political transition, I want to recognize both sides, right? Many people are feeling fear, they're feeling devastation, they're feeling angry. And there are others who are feeling relief and hopeful and triumphant. And so beneath all of these emotions, there lies a deeper truth. And that's that we are witnessing the struggle between an old system trying to sustain itself in the midst of a call to be and create something greater. And so before we can bring balance outwardly, right, to our partners, our families, our friends, our communities, we must bring balance inwardly to ourselves. And so today we're invoking the principles of Maat, the principles of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, right? We're gonna let these principles of Maat guide us as we explore what it means to spiritually align ourselves. And actually, as we explore what it means to align our politics with our spiritual reality. And so the revelation here is a simple one. Politics is not something that is separate from spirituality. Politics and spirituality are one and the same. And in truth, they're mirrors of each other, you all. Like, spirituality at its core is the exercise of our relationship with the divine. And so that means our true self within and all people, places, and things without. And so I'd be remiss if we don't start with some definitions. And all right, the first definition would be, what is politics? To keep it really simple, politics is the exercise of a people's philosophy toward other people. So I also want to give economics. Economics, it sounds like ecosystem. Like, this is where etymology becomes important for us. Because if we break down the word, we get to see the spirit of the word, right? The letters don't tell you the spirit itself. But if you understand the wholeness, then you can see its parts, and then the parts can lead you to the unseen aspect of the whole. So economics, ecosystem. Economics is going to be a practice of a people's philosophy towards their environment. And of course, people find themselves contextualized within a natural and a social environment. Therefore, the two most critical ingredients of a civilization, which is different from a society, we're going to talk about that another time. But the two critical ingredients for living within a civilization is understanding your environment and the people that occupy that space and time with you. And so these definitions are important because building on political ideas must be intentional. And as a result, they need to be carefully considered. Quick tangent, right? You guys know the title, or you guys have heard of the Phantom of the Opera, right? So one of our great African ancestor warrior scholars, his name is Jacob Carruthers. His Kemetic name would be Mz Jedi Shimshut Jehudi. And he would say that we have to stop messing with the phantom of liberty, right? And so I'm going to ground this conversation in the American context because that's where many of us find ourselves, right? That's where I find myself. So I have to speak from where my ground is. And so y'all know that America's big brother is found over in Europe, and a lot of European ideas of politics are heavily influenced by the French egalitarian, right? The French like equality movement. And you guys know their slogan. It was about life, liberty, and property, or life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And so Do some research. If you know what France did to Haiti, you know that their country doesn't truly understand social equity, but that's for another time. What we can surely say is that our ancestors built this nation physically. And we certainly have many ancestors who have made motions to refine this political experiment. But if we zoom out for just a moment and we ask ourselves, was this nation truly like our ancestors' idea in the first place? What would that answer be? Right? And so, again, we have a spiritual duty to ourselves, our family, our community, as well as this planet and cosmos as a whole. And so if our politics doesn't align with our spirituality, what is going to be the result? So, right, the obvious situation is that our politics should reflect our alignment with our community. And so let's remember that as Black and African-centered people, our family includes the living, our ancestors, as well as those children yet to be born, right? Like I mentioned, if you haven't, go check out our last episode about tapping into limitlessness. In order to tap into limitlessness, we must imagine and think for eternity. Therefore, those who have been our ancestors and those who will be, those yet to be born, are certainly a part of our family. And in truth, that's what makes, especially in my experience, because I used to work in politics. My background is in political science, and I have a master's degree in international relations. And it was during those studies and writing these dissertations and psychoanalyzing the United States and America and Western political systems in general that I realized how twisted the Black experience in America was, right? So like we've seen the play and the movie of Alexander Hamilton. I had to learn the presidents in order. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln. Those are the first 16. I won't do anymore. But I'm gonna ask you, are these your forefathers? Are these our forefathers and our mothers? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like I went to study international relations and learned nothing about Africa and learned all about Europe. So the truth is that the systems we see today, like democracy, are not reflective of our ancestral legacy, right? They're rooted in social and societal convictions of greed, exploitation, and inequality. And we're gonna talk about this more later because there's a difference between a society and a civilization. But for now, we're gonna continue by returning to some of the great wisdom from our great civilization established upon the Nile River or the Hapi River Valley, known as Kemet or ancient Egypt, right? Because our ancestors left us a blueprint for harmony and for Maat. And so I want us to move to the 5th dynasty of Kemet, one of the wise visors or city administrators whose name means the peace of the divine mind, right? His name is Ptahhotep. And he gave us some instructions which are considered some of the first writings in human history. And so a book that I'm gonna reference is called the Husia, Sacred Wisdom of Ancient Egypt by Malana Karenga. On page 41 in the instructions of Ptahhotep, maxim or instruction number 2, he says, for Maat, the way of truth, justice, and righteousness is great. Its value is lasting, and it has remained unequaled and unchanged since the time of the Creator. He also continues, although wickedness may gain wealth, and I think we know about that here in the West, wrongdoing has never brought its wares to a safe port. And so this revelation challenges us to ask, are we aligning with the legacy of our ancestors or someone else's? Are we perpetuating systems that were never meant to sustain us? And if so, why? Right? So the exploration for us is to move into a Maotic-centered thinking, right? Because these questions are inseparable Like we said, economics is a philosophy of a people toward the environment, and politics is the practice of a philosophy toward other people. And so both must reflect balance and reciprocity. And so now consider this. Whose philosophical ideal is the democracy we live in today? Whose values does it serve? And while we can argue again that our ancestors physically built this nation, the foundation of these ideals were not rooted in Maat. It was rooted in imbalance, or what we would call isfet, disorder, chaos. So this is why this system struggles to create equity and equality, because it wasn't designed to. And so this might feel controversial for some, but controversy isn't a bad thing. Controversy means that you're listening to an opinion that is different from your own, and that's healthy. It brings strength to your opinion, and it also gives you a way to understand others, which would bring balance to the conversation that you would have with them, right? And so I offer this because this is a new way of looking at things at the present time, right? Maybe instead of trying to repair a broken system, what if we redirected our energy? What if we began building something new, something that was rooted in truth and justice and harmony, right? I'm asking us to transmute this energy. I'm telling us that it's time to focus and shift our perspective. And when we do that, we're going to bring about and open the way for a power that we didn't necessarily know was there, right? This election of Donald Trump might seem like 1, 2, 3, 4 steps back for some of us, for many people actually. But I challenge you to say, what doors are you not recognizing opening because you're focused on the thing that has never been focused on you in the first place, right? And so, like we said, living a Maatcracy instead of a democracy, it's going to take some thought, and it's going to take some action. And so tonight, today's homework, the Bak Per, is going to be to write down 3 things. The first is a question of reflection, asking yourself, what are some ways that you want to live a more balanced and harmonious life, right? What are the things that you could be doing in your life to add more balance? And then number 2 would be, if you walked out into society and wanted to feel that reciprocity, what things, what people, what places would you look for, right? And then the third would be the action, which is to go out and extend that favor and that love and that balance and that beauty to others, and see how you receive it for yourself, because you've made it so within, and therefore it is without. And so I want to end speaking again and returning to the words of Ptahhotep, right? Again, the Husia, Sacred Wisdom of Ancient Egypt by Malana Karenga. If you go to page 41, you will begin reading the maxims of Ptahhotep. I'm going to start from where we left off. He says that although wickedness may gain wealth, wrongdoing has never brought its wares to a safe port. This is what's important. In the end, it is Maat, the way of truth, justice, and righteousness that endures and enables the upright to say, it is the legacy of my father and my mother. And so I challenge us to go out and live the legacies of our fathers and our mothers, and not the legacy of the government systems that are throwing these imbalancing forces upon us. So as always, I take great pride and pleasure and gratitude in you all coming to commune here in Afrosynthesis, even though not physically, certainly sharing your spirit, your mind, and your energy. And I'll be back to see you next week. So it is, and so shall it be. Shemima Tap, y'all.